have adopted their own policies. And what I have seen across the board, and I've talked to people nationally, is that their policies they support, but they also require their employees to take PTO. They have to use their PTO time. They have to use their sick time. The victim is being re-victimized by having to take certain hours out of their banks that they've worked so hard for. And if they're going above and beyond that, say something takes, they've got kids involved, and it's going to take longer than the 3 days they've allowed in their policy. This is a bigger problem.
Going back to the options that employers have, specifically speaking with EAP programs, employee assistance programs, as well as, like I said earlier, their culture and other benefits, there are many companies that have the flexibility, autonomy, and open-endedness to create and provide whatever they so choose for their employees. California now making this a mandate versus every other state at the moment open to do whatever they choose.
It starts west and trickles east, above and beyond. And those drills that you were talking about, in order to make a huge impact where it needs to be made, right?
We desperately need help. This is definitely something that should be incorporated across the board here. Time is now, and I'm happy that it's starting somewhere so that it can have a ripple effect. And if you guys don't go home with anything else today, other than this brief overview that I had here, a couple things. I really want you guys to assess where people are walking in when they first walk into your establishment. What is there? What is the access control? Who is sitting? What doors do they need to go through? Who is sitting there to prevent them going through the next layer? And how is that taking place? Do you have a button under the desk or somewhere on the wall or somewhere behind a door to push in case there's an emergency and first responders are there quickly?
I'm going to say, and I'm sorry to interrupt again, but my manufacturing facility has a main entrance for your typical person, public walking in, but we have employee entrances all over the facility. They come in with a badge. There is no security there. And we have had disgruntled employees walk in, and there's been altercations throughout. There has to be security at every access point. It can't be limited to just the front door and a panic button. There has to be even more, because an employee that is he doesn't want to talk, or she doesn't want to talk, or she's going through her own thing. Again, domestic violence comes in all forms.
I have a link for you and a QR code for you. We have a 30-minute assessment as to where you are, what you need, what you want, and how that can be turned into exactly what you're looking for. This is the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey. Some of these surveys and information is actually, in my opinion, because 2016, 2017, that's pre-pandemic. It takes a while for the census to come in and for the numbers to be gone through. This is just saying that in a 12-month period amongst female victims that came into contact with sexual, physical, stalking, or anything closely related to that, this was the outcome, okay? They are fearful. They are concerned for their safety. They are suffering from PTSD. The injuries are at 74%, okay? And we're talking about, what is this? 44 million out of 44 million, okay? So domestic violence happens every 20 minutes, or I think 10. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy. So needing medical care, almost 30%. Talking to crisis hotline operators, the percentage is low because unfortunately there's not a lot out there. Needing housing services. This looks a bit low to me as well, because I'm familiar with what that looks like in general based on personal experience and community work. Now, what I really want to hone in on here is that missing days of work and or school. We're talking for work, okay, we're talking about almost 16 million people, almost 16 million people.
And all of this, if this employee is actually working, their productivity has diminished tremendously going through all of this.
Absolutely. And they're bringing their coworkers and colleagues with them because they need that support. And if they're not getting that support from the community or from the county, then their work, I will tell you, as a survivor of a double attempted homicide and other things, Work was the only place I had resources. I had to go to work as a victim. And it was the only place where there were resources. There was heat, there was a place where I could put the food, there was a phone, there were things there. So a lot of people find work to be their safe haven and their place to go to feel supported and or away
And
from the
so if
violence.
so as a victim, if you're there taking those resources and this person is still on the outside, that's even bigger risk for them to come to the workplace.
And with everybody else, that is correct. Because if you think about it, your highest assets at the job should be your people.
Part of this OSHA CAL, is there any discussion about there being benefits within insurance or anything to help victims so that they can not rely so much on the company?
So that is definitely something that's still being discussed as this law is rolling out. And I have a meeting in May where there's going to be a huge conference specifically for, yes, workplace violence and workman's comp and risk management and how all this is going to take place.
Oh, this makes me so happy.
Yes, yes. And again, I will keep emphasizing that it's also a lot that is up to the corporation to decide. What does their culture look like currently? What do they want it to look like? And how do they want to incorporate what's mandatory into what they already have? It has to be done. It's just how do you want it done? I just wanted to share that. This was a quick research summary, but this is specific to Utah. It was recent, actually today or yesterday, excuse me, the first. I don't want to spend too much time on this. It was just showing that women agree that the levels are significantly higher as it relates to gender violence and marital status. Respondent married but separated, divorced had stronger agreement. And this is based on domestic violence being a problem in the community. And what's really interesting is that emotional abuse is actually, considering domestic violence, emotional abuse is just as serious as physical abuse. So a lot of people definitely believe that the emotional abuse is just as significant as the physical. I personally believe that as well. I don't want to sound so disconnected or unemotional about it. I'm very passionate about it. Bruises go away. The emotional, the psychological abuse lingers. It can be very devastating and take a lot longer to heal from. It's very impactful, especially when you are a professional going into the workplace and you just are completely destroyed mentally and emotionally, doubting yourself and going into work and not being the best version of who you are, and you're a leader. So it's such a ripple effect, like I was saying earlier. Now,
Yeah, it can
specific
really
to,
impact your career development too. Just like
oh
how
my
you can
gosh.
grow and stuff.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Tuha. Yes. So this came directly from the state of California's Department of Industrial Relations. It's just saying that the latest data shows that in 2021, 57 working people died from acts of workplace violence. In the US, an average of 1.3 million non-fatal violent crimes in the workplace occurred annually between 2015 and 2019. So this is again pre-pandemic. So I don't want to say that I'm excited to see what those new numbers are, because I'm not. It's a sad reality, but I am, just to show how significant this really is. And now that companies are still trying to bring in those people that they sent home during the pandemic, a lot of them don't want to come back to work, and those that are coming back to work are different people.
And if I could share, even after the pandemic, I know of somebody just recently, 4 weeks ago, they had their child working at work. The manager, who just recently got fired, walked in, shot the employee, and then shot himself in the office. This happened 4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Access
insane.
control. We have to start at access control. Please,
100%.
yeah,
100%.
yeah, we're gonna wrap this up here because you guys really need this QR code to have a quick one-on-one here. I'll just wrap it up here. Domestic violence reduces workplace production, the absenteeism. Look, as many as 85% of victims report being absent from work due to the abuse. As it relates to the tardiness, other studies indicate that between 50 to 60% of victims reported being late for work or leaving early because of domestic abuse. The loss, job loss, several studies indicate that as many as 27% of victims report job loss as a direct result of domestic violence. One showing that 91% of victims had resigned or lost a job in the last year as a direct result. So again, just saying here, one study found that $1,775 more is spent on each victim of domestic violence annually. That's a really low number. I believe that has increased exponentially at this point, for absolutely. And then there's workplace stigma. This is something that we can just continue going on and on about, which we won't. Instead, I want to pop up this other screen for you guys to take out your phone and scan that QR code. Let me zoom in for you if I can. I cannot. Scan that QR code. Let's have a quick discovery one-on-one. Talk about where you currently are. Talk about what you currently want, and see if you will make sure that you can be compliant by the time it is expected to be compliant.
I was able to grab that QR code and I'm in there. Just fill it out and give you the information.
Thank you for joining me this evening. This is my first attempt at providing this training, and I have gathered a wealth of information. So I'm happy that you're here, and I welcome all questions and love the engagement. My name is Agape, and I'm here with Agape Consulting, and I am a corporate consultant focusing specifically on compliance, physical security, domestic violence, and being audit ready. So I am super excited to dive into this, and we'll learn much, much more as we go.
This is great. I'm really excited I joined. I learned a lot, and I definitely have a lot more questions. I think what you're doing is great.
Oh, thank you so much. If you want to ask some of those questions, if you're still on your walk, I'll be happy to answer them.
all I'll say is I'm still shocked by the numbers and the amount of information that I've taken in today. I think what I am most excited about is the drills and taking it more seriously at the workplace, because annual trainings, we all know them, they're boring and whatever, but if there's going to be drills, not only does it educate people on how to react to a situation, but it also starts the conversation with everybody about, okay, what would I do if I was in this situation? What if my friend's going through it? Things like that. So I really do feel like it'll impact the workplace culture just with this new requirement in California.
The numbers are very impactful, and sometimes I say, if you think about 1 out of 3 women, if you have 50 employees, that's 1 out of 3. How many are going through something right now?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Whether it be emotional, physical, sexual, financial, there's a gamut.
This is very eye-opening.
Yeah. And there's what they're trying to put in place to prevent this, I think is phenomenal. And so I'm really excited to sit down and look at what you guys currently have. If you have an emergency response plan, if you have the injury and illness prevention plan, what you currently have, if you have safety officers, if you have third-party security, or if your HR is your security, or what communication channels you have for employees to be forthcoming without fearing of retaliation or anything else for that matter. It's really important that we start opening up and making our employees feel confident and comfortable sharing what's going on. Domestic violence can certainly fall under that.
100%.
Thank you, ladies, for joining this evening.